Hello and welcome to your next StableNet tutorial. Today we'll give you an overview on reporting capabilities in StableNet and show you some examples how to work with reporting. Reports in StableNet can be generally found on the reporting theme. There are different ways of reporting in StableNet, all based on the same theme. One option is to have periodic reports being sent to you by email or to the administrators by email in periodic times, such as, for instance, daily, monthly, or in other periods. This can be configured freely. Another option is on-demand opening of reports. Let's first look into these periodic reports, and we'll just have a look here at the report jobs overview. So we see all the report jobs that are currently configured here in my system. And as an example, I will pick here the VLab report that is sent out daily. Every day we see when it has been started and we see when it has last been executed. And if I open it here in a modify dialog, I see that the report consists of different components. We will cover this in a moment. It has a name and it has schedule settings. And in this case, we see that the start time is configured for 10:42 every morning, and it's actually executed infinitely on every single work day of the week, and it's set on active, so it's actually sending out emails. And in this case, it's an HTML and a PDF report. So this is the configuration for a periodic report. And now let's look here at the actual archived reports. So those are the reports created daily. So we see we have those reports. They appear every day, and we have them in HTML and in PDF as well. And each of these reports is actually created twice for the different users that have access to that report. That is usable if you have a report that is the same from the structure but contains different values for different people. So that's why this is done. So now let's first look at one of these HTML reports, and I just opened the most recent one. It's actually opening in a browser here. And if I look at this report, I can see again the components that I already briefly saw in the editor. So I have text elements here for the different sections. I can get charts in StableNet. I can get tables as well. I don't have tables here in this report, but there will be tables in another report I show later on. And these are all standard elements from StableNet that I can also add as report components. I can see that I can get here group analyzers with statistic data, analyzers over time, and so on. So now let's also look at the PDF version of that report. So I'm opening the same report here in PDF, which opens a PDF viewer. And if I look in that report in PDF, I see that I have here a title page containing the title of the report and the generation time. And then I have the actual report, which is now in this case layouted in an A4 PDF format, which might be helpful for printing out or for sharing. And this is not just saved here on the archive, but this is also automatically sent to the receivers group by email. If I want to configure those receivers groups, I'm actually going back to that report here. If I want to configure the receivers groups, I can do this by actually using here the mail destinations. So in this case, it's actually not been sent out. That was wrong what I said. If I was adding here a user, then this one would also receive the report by email. In this case, it's just being archived here. So this is maybe a starting point for showing you generally these periodic reports. As I have mentioned in the report components, there are plenty of different things that I can add here, that I can configure. I can add lines, I can add text elements, I can add obviously the different charts. And there is a full overview on this in the documentation, but we will also in some minutes look into this and create some example report. First, I want to show you the next possibility to open a report on demand. So now I'm not running that report periodically, but I want to open it right now to see the current state. So I have a right-click option here to show a report dashboard, which is also here in the menu. And if I do this, again, my browser will be opening. And I'm now getting actually under a link of the ID of the report, I'm getting a live view of the report. You can see that it has been created just now, 11:54, while I'm recording this video. And I get the same data, but related to the time now. So it's as this is a weekly report, it's referring to yesterday and the week before. So that doesn't change in this report as it's a weekly report. But this is live data coming in now, and other than that, it's the same as before. I can also maybe open here a server health, a monthly report as a show report dashboard, so we will see some other views. In this case, it's another report ID. I get here a server health report containing also some tables, in this case, containing group analyzer charts and providing me more information about the different servers, in this case, in this small demo setup I run here, getting information about disk usage as well, the free space. So it's just another example of a report. And in this case, I have a link for the report, which is also tokenized, so I don't need login credentials. You could share that link with anyone in your company who wants to have a visibility as well of the reports. They can open this dashboard-like report without needing their own access credentials. So this is also a possibility for sharing information, for instance, with the management or with other departments in your company. The next possibility I want to show to open a report on demand is not showing a complete report that has been prepared here, but showing a dynamic report for a specific instance, for instance, for a specific device that I want to drill in. In this case, I'm doing this by going into my StableNet tree here, going onto a Cisco device. And in this case, I'm right-clicking the device and opening here in the right-click menu something called the dynamic dashboard. And I'm actually opening a device dashboard for that specific selected device. And if I do this, again, my browser will open with a dashboard link, and you can see here that there is a hashed tag filter in the link. So this is actually referring to the device that I just selected. It's this one, V1AR11, that I just selected in my GUI. And I'm actually getting now specific data like ping charts, interface statistics, and so on, tables with further data specifically for that device that I just selected. And I'm actually getting this for the last day. So I opened it at 11:56, and it reaches from today, 11:56, 2 days. It's actually last 2 days. It reaches back in time and provides me with the data. And this is a so-called a dynamic dashboard because it's specifically for the selection that I took. I can also do that for a group of devices. So if I select 4 devices here and do the same thing, show dynamic dashboard, I will actually now get a report which is aggregating the data of all these 4 selected devices. So if I scroll down here, we see the information for 4 devices. And you can also see up here, in this case, the chart is not large enough to contain the information for all 4 devices. So in this case, you can configure the chart to be larger from the height so that you can fit in all the information. You can also shorten the title. All this is possible depending on what you need. Normally, this is a report meant for 1 device. So this has not been taken care of in this example just. Okay, so now you have seen an overview so far about different types of reports, like periodic reports, reports with a report dashboard, and dynamic reports specifically for a selected set of devices. And now I want to actually show you a little bit how to create a report. And to that purpose, I'm now focusing on creating a small report for VMware virtual machines. And to that end, I'm first here starting a new report. So this is my virtual machine report. And it's actually a single report. I don't want it to be sent out periodically. It's just I'm creating it now for the example. and it's an HTML report. It should not be mailed in this case. It's just a report for looking at. And I'm now adding components. And actually, as the first component in this case, I'm adding so you can get an overview in the documentation about everything that is possible. But here I will just start with a text box. So my text box, I will give it a color, let's say blue. And I will use Markdown syntax and call it virtual machine overview. So this is the title text that will be on top. Finish. And underneath, I'll add a second component where I say I take a group statistic, and I'm actually taking of all the devices in my network. So I'm working here with tag filters. This is also documented and covered in other tutorials. I'm here picking specifically for VMware the virtual machine statistics. This is a group analyzer chart. And for that group analyzer chart, I'm actually specifically picking the minimum power status table of these devices, and all of them. I will explain in a moment what I'm doing here by actually clicking on the preview. So this is opening in the browser and showing it. So what you can see here now is you see all the virtual machines in my demo lab, and you see the minimum power status. And actually, you can interpret this in several ways. The one thing is if the power status of the last 24 hours that I selected here is 0, the minimum, it means that this device was at some point in time was switched out. Switched off on the last 24 hours. And if it's 1, it means that the machine was running the whole time without any breaks. So the machine was running the whole last 24 hours. And if there's no value, it means that there are currently there's no more measurement data of the device. So it was also not working. And if I'm now actually going back to my report and I'm saying I do a value filter where the minimum of my statistic is 0.2, I actually have the possibility now, I'm clicking on preview again, I have the possibility to filter out only those devices that have been constantly running in the 24 hours. And that's what I did right now. So I just took a group analyzer chart way to get a table of all running devices of the last 24 hours. So all those virtual machines that have been constantly on. And this is now part of my report. And now I'm adding a third element, which is called the so-called dynamic chart. So I'm now referring to that information, what I previously selected. So I'm taking this previous group chart, VMware virtual machine, so all virtual machines that are currently that have been running during the last 24 hours. And for all these virtual machines, I'm actually creating 2 charts here. The first chart I'm creating is a value chart of the CPU usage of all these virtual machines. So it's 10 virtual machines. We have seen that before in the table. And I'm actually taking for the last 24 hours the CPU usage of these machines, and I'm plotting all of those in one single chart. So I make this chart a little bit larger, let's say 800 pixels high to see the legend. And yeah, let's maybe just finish this for now, not adding any tags, just making this available for the administrators and no emails being sent out. And now let's just, before doing anything else, just show a report dashboard of that report to see what we already have. So now I can see I created, so far, I created a headline. I created a table of all active machines of last 24 hours. And I have one chart, which is containing here all the different CPU usage lines. I can see that the legend is not fully readable, so I will correct this by modifying my report and saying that my size down here, let's say, is 1,000 pixels in width. Finishing this, okay. And if I'm actually now just refreshing my chart, I get the new one because it's the same chart ID and token. So now I have here the CPU usage of the last 24 hours of all these virtual machines. And now I'm actually showing you an additional feature. I'm actually now duplicating this row. And in this case, I'm doing rather than doing one chart with all the CPU usage values, I'm doing multiple charts, and I'm plotting for each virtual machine. I'm plotting all the values. In this case, yeah, let's just do it with the same parameters. Okay. And I'm again refreshing my report. Takes a bit longer because it's plotting more charts. And what I get now is here on the first chart, I get for all the virtual machines, I get the CPU usage. And on the subsequent charts, I get for each single virtual machine, the title is always here, the name of the machine is always here in the title. I get all the value metrics that are measured for that virtual machine in one chart. So I can see for each virtual machine all the different details. Maybe so much about that report that I created here. Now I want to have maybe another look. So let's imagine I want to have some other corporate identity of my reports. In this case, it's the standard StableNet look and feel. And to that end, I have prepared something here on my desktop. I've actually prepared a report template. This is a HTML page. I'm just opening it, where I have created an HTML page with, let's imagine this is your corporate identity with your company logo and your company coloring, maybe some images being used. And there in this HTML page, there is one placeholder for the report name and one placeholder for the report content. You can also look into this using an editor of your choice. In my case, I'm using Notepad++, and if I look at this and open it here, I can see that somewhere in the HTML I have the SN report name and somewhere I have the SN report content. And now if I'm actually I have some pictures that I use, and I have all of this, and now if I in one folder, and now if I'm actually going to back to StableNet and going to the report templates, then I can actually import a new template. And in this case, as it features the robot, I'm just calling it the robot template. Okay. And I'm saying that I actually want to use that HTML page. So it's imported. Now I have a robot template. And if I now copy, I'm just cloning my virtual machine report and calling it robot, because this one is now the robot version of my template. So, okay. And I'm modifying it and saying that now I want to use, rather than the standard template, I want to use the robot template, which could be also your company template. And if I'm now opening the same report with that robot template, then I actually, after waiting a short while, I get the same report. So you can just compare. This is the old reports, the same data as the new report, but I get it new in this new style. And just as repetition, here you still see the template. So the template is actually prepared with the robots, with the logo, and with these placeholders. And the placeholders are filled out by StableNet. So this is just quickly showing you the option how to work with this report templates. Now, towards the end of my tutorial, in order to make it not too long for this time, I want to quickly focus on Excel reports. We are also able to create Excel reports with StableNet. And to that end, I'm creating one more report in StableNet. So let's just call this one Excel report example. It's again a single report, which is not repeated automatically. In this case, is Excel, starting with a blank template. And I'm just adding, in this case, one component. And I'm actually adding a chart statistic. And I'm just, for one of the measurements, let's say of my row guard system in the backbone, I'm adding just a ping chart of the last day in 1 minute. No, let's say of the last month, last 1 month. And I'm getting data every hour. And I actually want this not as a chart, but as a measurement data table. I can preview this as well. So I'm getting it here in HTML. So I will get a table with one value per hour of the last month of these ping values, just for the sake of having a simple example. I'm finishing this not adding any tags, just adding the administrators, not adding any email recipients. And if I now run this report I generated now on demand, it actually should be quite quick because it's a small report. I actually get in my Excel reports, I get this report again for the 2 administrators. And I now have the possibility to open that report. I do this by saving it to my disk. So I'm saving it to the desktop and just calling it Excel. It has a timestamp and so on, but I will just call it as the Excel report base. Going to my desktop again and opening this Excel report base in my Excel. It's a German Excel, but I think all the things I will use in my interface will be quite understandable, even if it's German here. So I just got my report here as an Excel table. So you see here the timestamps in front and you see the different values. And now I'm just quickly here adding a pivot table and saying, okay, let's say I take the time. It's actually automatically grouping this by month. And now I'm, in addition, taking the maximum round trip time of my measurements, and I'm not actually looking at the Anzahl, which means the number of measurements, but I'm looking at the maximum. So here now I have in Excel, in this pivot table, for May, the largest ping time of that router was 228 milliseconds, and in June it was 75. And if I open this, I get this by day. So let's just say I'm also adding here a chart. It's just a simple Excel example to have something to show here, because I will in a moment show how this can be used for templates. And in addition, I'm also adding some new rule. I'm saying that I want a rule that all the values are colored according to their value. And I'm actually doing this for on the pivot table here exactly. So I'm doing this here. That's it, okay. And now I'm actually, this is just a setup of, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'm saying that I'm doing this on all the, I'm actually doing this on all the values here in my pivot table, and that's it. You will see in a moment why I'm doing this. And now I'm saving this file as a Excel file. I'm saving it as a new Excel file, but this will be my template for StableNet. So I have just done some, let's say, Excel magic, some simple stuff with pivot tables, with formula, with charts, and I'm saving this as my Excel report template for the tutorial. And now you can see that this Excel template consists of a StableNet sheet, which is the raw data from StableNet, and a table here, which I can call, let's say I call it overview, and I'm saving it again. And now if I go back to StableNet and I say I actually want to go to my report templates, and now I'm importing a new template, which is my Excel pivot example template. So I'm just adding a new template based off that file that we just had. So I'm going back to my desktop and opening this Excel report template tutorial. It's actually added as a new Excel report template. And if I now go back to my, I just close my Excel here. And if I now take my report again, maybe I clone it actually. I'm cloning it. And I'm saying that now this is my pivot example with the pivot template. And I'm actually saying that I override the time settings on, rather than having the last 1 month, I open it for the last 4 months. Okay, there we are. I can just open it again. Look here. So it's the last 4 months. It has been overwritten, but it doesn't make sense to have it every minute. So I will say I'm taking for the last 4 full months, I'm taking 1 ping value every 6 hours, let's say. Okay, there we are. And I already changed, I changed my Excel report template here to the new one. There we go. And now I run my report. If this goes too fast, please also make use of stopping the video and looking into this again in your own speed, or look up more information also in the documentation. You can find how this is being done with the Excel reports. So now I created that new report, and if I'm now saving this to my disk, getting here a timestamp, just saving it like this. And if I'm now, there we are, this is my new report. If I'm opening it in Excel, you will actually see that here I get my new data, which is now the last 4 months, starting in February. And if I just actualize now my pivot table, you can actually see that I'm getting also the same data for the last days. So summing up, what I just showed here is I created an Excel template once. And even if I'm changing the raw data from StableNet, the Excel template is still working correctly. So you can that way create an Excel template which reflects your, let's say, corporate identity or your logic in Excel that you want to do afterwards. But independent on which data you are filling it from StableNet in the same format, the Excel template will then still work and show the up-to-date data. So this is also an additional possibility to extend your reporting using Excel. So as always in my tutorials, I'm summing up what I showed you today. I showed you the reporting in StableNet. You could see that reports can either be done periodically and sent by email, or you can open them on demand with show report dashboards. You can also open dashboards by right-clicking them and using the dynamic dashboard functionality. I showed you, I created an example for a virtual machine report and created a new report template for HTML that I was using here. I created an Excel report example and created an Excel template. And that way, I hope I gave you a rough overview on what you can be doing with the reporting in StableNet. And if you want to find out more, please have a look into the documentation or reach out to us in any time. Thank you very much. Bye.